Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and people. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a special guest. Well, everyone's a special guest because they take time to join me on the show. I'm joined by one of the past presidents of the George Mason Alumni Association, Miss Jen Shelton. Now, I don't think Jen knows that we overlapped or connected, but I remember, maybe this was pre-pandemic, where we did the Mason door contest. Yeah. And you actually came to my office and I had it all decorated. And I think I actually didn't go to the game, but you told me, hey, someone's like, Phil, we saw you on the Jumbotron or something like that. And I was like, wow, that's mad love. So I've been involved. I've been watching her journey as a president. I've since then gotten more involved as an alum myself. And I'm just really excited to connect with these past presidents and learn about their Mason journey, their Mason story, and just how to get involved as an alum. But before we get in this episode, Jen, just introduce yourself to the listeners and things you'd like to share about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation and thanks for doing what you do. I think it's great. For myself, I'm a first generation college graduate and class of 94 from Mason with a BS in public administration. I have about 15 years of volunteer experience with Mason on various boards, a Richmond alumni chapter, College of Humanities and Social Sciences, the Alumni Association, and Patriot Club. And I met my husband at Mason, and I have a daughter that graduated in 2020. So we're a Mason family and all in on Mason.
I love it. I love it. And that's actually pretty dope. I think that's a great segue, the first gen, particularly first gen and just coming to college. So take us back to that high school, Jen. How did you hear about Mason and what was your thoughts? You know, you're the first going to college. What was that discussion like with your family about going to college?
My mom didn't want me to do it. I grew up in Hawaii. So telling her I was going to go to Virginia for college somewhere I had never been. She thought I was crazy. And she said, well, why don't you do something more practical, like go to beauty school and you can always cut hair. So I really just had this dream of higher education and figured I'd shoot my shot and just try it out and see what works. And it worked out really great. So.
Okay. But Jen, this is crazy. I mean, I know they're green. I know they're the Rainbow Warriors. How did you, on the map, all the way from Hawaii, how did you pick Mason? Like, did you any, meeny, miny, mo? Like, that's quite a distance from Hawaii to come all the way to Virginia. Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, so I was interested in government and politics. That was one of my best classes in high school. So I figured just go with the strong suit. And so I was looking in the DC area and my guidance counselor told me that there was a student from our high school that went to George Mason. And she was a valedictorian of her class, 2 years ahead of me. And, you know, up and coming and this and that. And so I said, well, why not? I threw it into the mix and I got accepted. So in the end of the day, my choices were George Mason or University of Hawaii. And I said, I'm just going to go for it. I can always come back home. So I just went for it, sight unseen. And it was, a great journey.
That's a phenomenal story. So you really said sight unseen. Did you actually step on campus before you came or no?
No. I registered through phone. I called the counselor's office and they're like, okay, we'll sign you up for classes. And I had never been to the East Coast at all. So I had to buy winter boots. I didn't know what those were. They said duck boots. I'm like, really? And then I went to the store and I said, people wear these? So
this is amazing. I'm like smiling. I mean, the listeners can't hear this, and I'm learning. That's why I love doing podcasts. I learned so much. Did you actually when you touched down? Did you actually because you said she was a couple of years older, did you reach out to that student and say like, hey, help me
Yeah.
know the land of Virginia,
Yeah, yeah.
guide me, be
Actually,
my friend?
she was really great. And in Hawaii, I'm from a small town in Hilo on the Big Island, and she had a aunt and her mother were teachers at my high school, so the connection was easily made. And she picked me up from the train station in Alexandria, is where I came up from. I took a train from California to Virginia because I thought it would be a fun journey, but I, I didn't realize it was a 3-day trip. But
That's all.
so yeah, so she was great, and turns out she was involved as a peer advisor, and there was a student in housing that she knew that said, oh, this girl's coming from Hawaii, I'm going to put you in the room next door to the other Hawaii girl. So it turned out we were on the same floor, and we became close friends after that, and peer advisors together. And she became an RA, and I was her peer advisor, and we had a great time.
I love that. I love that support.
Yeah.
Were you able to see full circle? Did a couple people after you come, and a couple more people from Hawaii come after you to Mason because of the path that you laid?
Not until later, not during my time. Hawaii people have a close connection, and so there's always a reach out. So I've talked to people over the years, or had connections with different Hawaiian students, but nothing that immediately followed me.
Wow, wow. So we're shell shocked. We're here. You're getting involved. Tell us a little bit about your Mason journey. Like you said, you studied public administration. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so,
So
and you said chess, right? Which I would think or was it in chess, or was it in a
it
different college?
was in chess. So it used to
Yeah.
be back in the day. So I graduated in '94, a long time ago. It was the College of Arts and Sciences. So almost
Mm,
everybody was that. And then they changed to chess, and then they changed to the Shar School. And the Shar School had a couple of different names, but yeah, I enjoyed it because it had a good mix of business classes
mhm.
and government classes. And then yeah, so I was involved in campus.
Mm,
I was in the freshman center as a freshman, and then shortly after, the next year, became a peer advisor. I was a summer orientation leader.
mhm,
I worked various jobs. I put myself through school, so
mhm.
I worked various jobs on campus in the library through work study program, and through admissions, and then also the career development center. So I was just all around campus. I lived on campus, and um, work, study, play.
Wow. So you said, okay, now you worked at the Career Development Center or Career Services, basically my
Yeah.
office. So that mean were you there? Like I'm not dating myself or knowing the whole history of our office. Did you overlap with Pat Coretta and all that, or was she there? I'm not sure. Like because that's
I
the
believe
history.
so. So this was I think my junior or senior year. So it would have been like '93. Um, there was, I forget the lady's name that I used to work with, um, but she had some experience in human resources, and I was initially interested in going into human resources because I thought I would be good working with people and one-on-one and that kind of thing. Because I thought law school was too expensive.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think this is really interesting because now, like, obviously, this is the office I work at, and hearing your journey, which I want to share, like, you're some of the student workers that we actually have in our office at Career Services, right? You were
yeah,
there and see this journey, like, or the first gen student. I mean, this is a great. I'm learning so much from your experience, and how this ties in to the things that are still going on and working on campus. So and being involved, I guess they're still peer ambassadors and peer. So this is all crazy. So when you see how much Mason has transformed, do you get that same vibe of like, this is what I remember, this is not nostalgic, this is to the core of Mason, or this is totally different, this is not the same school that I was, here at?
Yeah, it's grown a lot. It's like, I think there was only 3,000 students on campus, that lived on campus at the time. So definitely the growth is, way above what I thought it would be. But seeing my daughter go there and still being involved, I like the energy. I still believe in Mason, and it was where I kind of grew up as an adult. And I like I think I endured at Mason as a student because of the diversity, and that I was accepted. And because it was quite a culture clash, coming from Hawaii into the East Coast and this whole different world. And so I think the diversity really helped me, you know, stay and grow and develop as a person.
I love it. And so you said over, 20 years or so of involvement, and I think this is one of the things that I like to reach out to, alum at your status, taking us back. What was some of the earlier involvements post grad, and not work wise? I meant more so like involvement within alum and feeling like a proud alum and giving back, or take us back to that.
Yeah. So um, I was living in Richmond, and George Mason went to the Final Four. And I was a basketball fan, through my husband, who taught me a lot about college basketball. And so we were, super excited that, George Mason was recognized on a national platform, and people stopped confusing us with James Madison and, George Washington. And so after that, the basketball tournament for a while there was in the CAA, was in Richmond. So I would
Mhm.
see folks come down, from George Mason to be in Richmond. And so I was like, after the Final Four, I like, we need to turn it up. We need to
Mhm.
get more folks involved, and what can I do, and that kind of thing. And so I talked with some alumni people, and I met Conaway Haskins. I don't know if you know Conaway, but he was involved at the time. And he's like, yeah, we really need to get a chapter going. He said, but I don't have much time. And so he was connecting me with some alumni office people, and somehow I started a Richmond alumni chapter down there. So that's it. Just kind of grew from there. And I actually had a lot of my friends that graduated from Mason around my years, that lived in Richmond. So it kind of started from there and grew from there.
So I love it. So you started a Richmond chapter, and were you involved, obviously at boards and stuff, and knew the lay of the land of starting chapters, and had to fill roles and bylaws and all that stuff? Did you already know that previously, or you had to learn all this stuff developing the new Richmond chapter?
Yeah. No, I had to learn everything, but it was small. It's small, and I think it's still small now. It's more of, a couple people just kind of getting activities together, or linking up
Mhm.
with Patriot Club or the alumni office to make sure that, the word gets out, to the alums that are interested in being involved and stuff down there. So, but yeah, it was all new to me. And I liked meeting new people, and I would say, well, what would you want to do? What do you think we should do? And so we would go from there. One guy was connected with Colonial Downs, and helped us get a suite at the Colonial Downs horse races. And so we had an alumni event there. Um, and we just tried different locations around the city, and see where people would turn up for like a happy hour situation. And just grew from there. And it kept on going. Luckily, and it's still pretty active today. So
So obviously I see a lot of the fun stuff, but also I understand, as I've seen alumni engagement, there's a philanthropic component, right? Some form of give back, whether it's financial or mentorship or service, community service. What was some of the things that you were like with the Richmond area that were like, let's tap into this and help people too? Now, obviously, we're engaging and making them feel school pride, but like, we're helping people too with the alumni stuff.
Yeah. So one of the important things that I've tried to work on was just networking for alumni. So that, new graduates coming to Richmond could meet other alumni who were, established in their career or what have you. So I had interest from another alum, and so we really worked on the Richmond LinkedIn chapter, kind of just on that, and getting people connected that way. So that was the main one, is just probably networking with each other and seeing how that could help in career or life or whatever.
Oh, I mean, it's instrumental. I mean, I think don't minimize that. I think the opportunities to like get involved, and you said leaders, like leaders. Sometimes I've learned this phrase and I've been using it a lot. What's it? Time, talent, and treasure, right?
Yeah.
The buckets, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes people don't want to give you that treasure, that money, but
Yeah.
it does not minimize time and talent. I think time and talent, like if you can give your time and talk to someone or give them advice or mentor, or you're good at something like making graphics or something, you can give your talent. That
Right.
speaks just as much as the dollar bill sometimes. So, when you say, oh, just networking, I think that's a great way to, build relationships and help people. So I think, that's great. I think that was great. So you're in Richmond. When did they start pulling on your strings, say, hey, we want you to get involved at the at-large Alumni Association? And how did you dabble into that world?
So I guess I was just active there. I got involved with the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. So we had, after the Final Four, we got a family pack of season tickets. My kids were just old enough where they could travel some, and you could keep them occupied with Dippin' Dots and popcorn. And so we had come up to homecoming and some other games. So we were up on campus pretty frequently. And then my husband, who worked for a company that said, hey, do you want to move to Northern Virginia? And I said, well, I could do a lot more if I was closer to Fairfax. So some of the people that were involved with alumni just, has known me from being around, and Chris Preston was active in the Alumni Association at the time, and he's like, we got to get you involved. And so I came on as an at-large director, and it just continued to go from there.
There's something to be said if you hear multiple names and multiple people. Chris, I heard that name before. Chris, I think that's something to show about the community. It's a large school. It's a large school, but it's also small at the same time.
Yes,
it's intersectional.
Very much so. I mean, once you start talking to people, you'll find that the community is pretty well networked and doable in a small way that you really get to know it. And I think that's one of the things I really like about Mason is the community that's around it. And I probably have more friendships and memories based on my alumni activity than I do from when I was an undergrad. So,
yeah, I was about to say I could concurrently say that I have more experiences from working on campus as well as the alumni part than I did as a grad student, right? Grad student, you're in and out. You really don't, get the rah-rah as much. But
right.
I think that relationship, that piece, or that pride piece, for me particularly, came a lot afterwards. More pride as a person that works there because I'm proud of where I work, and then more pride like as someone that now is an alum and seeing all that stuff. So I find that interesting that you said that too, even from an undergraduate standpoint, that pride in school increases even after the days of college.
Absolutely.
So what are some tips? Like I don't know, I'm not a young alum. I'm a middle alum, but what would you say to the young alum? Like they just graduated. What things would you tell them to do, to like just, I don't know, feel like they can give back or connect or access alum? Like what would be some tips that you would give to like your daughter when she graduated as an alum?
Yeah, I
share with
tell
her.
when she graduated, it was hard because of 2020, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, that was just,
yeah.
we don't need to talk about that, but everybody
No.
knows what that story is. But yeah, I encouraged her to reach out to different alums, and she actually gained a few internships along the way, just by talking to different people. And I think that the thing is, for somebody who's a recent graduate is, don't you have to go in easy. Some people go in hard and they're like, "Do you have a job for me?" I mean, it's
Mhm.
like, okay, wait, hold, back up a little bit. But try to schedule, like, maybe say, do you have time to talk about your career, or can you, give me some tips of your own, or kind of like what you do in this podcast is, you know, f- kind of interview people that you want to be like, or positions you want to be in, and go from there. And sometimes that works as a nicer thing. And always send thank you notes. That's my big thing, is thank you notes and messages, and you say thank you for your time. And that goes a long way when you're trying to make a new connection, and get people to help you out.
I love it. I love it. Oh yeah, going easy. I probably need that for myself. Like, chill. I'm extroverted, but hey, that's okay. But that's true. I like that. I like that. It's uh, not just, it's not so transactional.
Right.
It's asking questions, and then maybe just popping up a little bit, showing up. Now that the world is more open, coming to things where you can engage face to face too, as
Right.
well, is a good way to do
Yeah,
it too.
and even though, if you see an event pop up, even though it's a happy hour and it seems like it's going to be just people drinking beer or something like that, um,
Mhm.
people are actually making connections, and networking on just a different level. Like, I guess if you compare it to like the golf course or something, that
Mhm.
people sometimes do business, or um, do career advice kind of things when they're more in a more relaxed atmosphere.
I love it. I love that. I'm gonna use that like the golf course, because um, I didn't realize, someone told me a while ago that, wow, Philip, you're good at networking, and I was like, I was just talking to people. And then I realized that more so that is kind, I don't, the word networking has a connotation as kind of businessy and salesmanshipy,
Yeah.
where it could just be like, let's have authentic conversations, learn, ask questions, and then be of value, right? Like, if you got some, I'll send you a job posting or something, like some kind of, there is maybe one somewhat transaction, but it's not like coming, like, I love it. Go in easy. I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use that for the networking thing for students. Like, tell them go in easy. Like, be yourself, be authentic, be polite, but
Absolutely.
don't be going in so transactional.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So you're involved. Chris got you roped in. When did you see yourself? Wow, like director at large, I could be a president of an
Yeah.
association.
And it took some convincing, because I had a lot of good ideas, and I had the time to commit. And but currently, or the past few years, or most of my career, is at a certain point in my life, I decided to be a stay-at-home mom.
Mm,
So most of the alumni presidents are lawyers, or
mm,
CPAs, or some kind of MBA. And so I was intimidated by that, and I didn't really think that I could be chosen or selected, or wanted for you know pretty much the highest volunteer role there is at George Mason for an alum. Um, so I had a mentor, Pete Farrell, who was a former past
mhm,
president, and he told me, you could do it. And I was just like, well, I guess I can. So I kind of, he gave me a lot of encouragement, and I put the work in, and I tried to be the best volunteer I could be. And when the time came around, it seemed like a obvious transition. So
I love
and
it.
I was happy to serve.
Now, I love it. Happy to serve. Was it like for you? Uh, was it an overall positive experience? And if you could do one thing over again, or let me say not one thing over again, but one thing like I love how you say like, oh, not many of us were stay-at-home moms. Is there could be if you could say something to yourself back then, what would you say as you started that journey? Uh, being the president, like before you're sworn in, or I don't know if you're sworn in or whatever, what would be some nice things that you would say to yourself before you got started?
Oh, yeah. I would definitely do it again if given the choice. It was a wonderful experience, but at the same time, there is, when you get to that level, you get to know probably a little bit more than you needed to know, and you get into a lot of rooms of, and hear things that maybe it's not the best side of, I guess, politics
Hmm.
and that kind of thing, and so that was a little hard to swallow, being this, like, I think of myself as a cheerleader for Mason. I'm always like, yes, I
Yeah,
love Mason and go to Mason, and you know try to be very positive about it, just like your podcast. And so that was a little bit hard to.
sure. So it's like I when idealism hits realism, and it's like I'm a very optimistic person. The world could be sunshine and butterflies, and then you get into rooms and you're like, wow, this is not as sunshiny or butterflies as this, but I need to have that. That's still who I am, and my character is an optimistic person or a positive person. But at the same time, like I don't want to be naive, right? I don't want to be a naive optimist. I want to be a realistic optimist, and I'm learning that. That's going to be my new phrase. Is like I
Yeah.
still hold on to hope and optimism, but also realism. But I don't want it to tip over so much that realism turns to cynicism. Does that make sense?
Yes,
So like
yes,
you realize
absolutely.
you realize everything is not utopia or perfect, but you're still hopeful and you're still optimistic and you still look at it through positive lenses, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yeah, so it was about maybe changing my bigger goals into smaller goals, and
Hmm.
trying to step up, through and work my way through the different challenges that come about when you're working with a larger government organization, and different parts and everything, and different people having different agendas. So, uh, but all in all, I there's just nothing like it. I getting to serve at that level was really an experience.
I love it. I love it. And that's inspiring to hear. And I love that, for sometimes I do the same thing when I'm pursuing leadership. Um, it's what representation matters, right? So I do look at past list of people and I'm like, man, how many of these past leaders were black males, or how many are this and that? And
Yeah,
it could be a little like you said it too, like they're lawyers and like you look at their jobs. And so sometimes, that's difficult to see that, but you can say, but I still can do it, right? I
yeah,
still have the core competency. I have still the core skills, um, regardless of these very visible identities that I see in the lineage, right?
right, right,
Um,
exactly.
that's very inspiring. I did not know that was see. This is what I think is great about this podcast because I would never have thought that was your experience. People look up to you and you're like, wow, like everyone has their own journey and
Yeah.
that's just really helpful to share. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh
Uh,
no, absolutely. And once I got to that level, it was all about lifting other people up, and starting new chapters, and
mhm.
getting new people involved, because that's the joy there, is how can we just rise up together. So.
So what was one of your proudest moments as president? Like, was it it could be a program that you were a part of. It could be an event. that you were a part of. It could just be we all had that, we call them Mason moments, but I want to talk about your Mason alumni moment. What was one of your proudest Mason alumni moments?
So, I can only speak to what I did when I was there, and I'm not sure how well it's going now or how well it's continuing. But for a while there, it was kind of more of tap the people in your network to join and get involved. And so I really tried to go beyond that and meet new people. And I come across people and they say, oh, I'm interested in getting involved. Okay, let's have a talk, let's chat, and let's see what we can do. And so I really tried to spread out in that form, and then also start where people could self-nominate to be a part of the board, which never really happened before. And that's because I just feel like, as much as I tried to widen the purview of people involved, it just wasn't enough, I don't think. And I didn't want to be the deciding factor if people were getting involved, because I had to have sometimes hard conversations with people when there wasn't room for them to be on the board. And there's only you can only have so many people. I was like, well, this really shouldn't just be up to me. This should be up to the alumni in general. And that's when we started voting, and self-nominating, or you could nominate a friend, or that kind of thing.
Well,
So
I think that still exists, and I think that's a great thing. As I've seen multiple instances and been on other boards, like I'm on, associations, the opportunity to nominate someone else, but also just be confident in yourself and nominate yourself is a great opportunity. It's like almost like, if you believe in yourself, then shoot your shot. I think that's a
yes,
great practice. I think
yeah,
that's a great practice.
yeah. So
All
I'm
right.
very proud of that.
Well, it's still going on, then. So you did it. So there it is. There it is. It's still going. So I lied. I told you that there was only structured part of the show was shout outs and plugs, but we do have another segment of my podcast. I like doing it because I want to hear the realness. It's called Shot for Shot. You get to ask me any random question. I get to ask you any random question as it relates to this or not. Do you want to go first? I go first.
You can go first.
All right. That's it. What was one thing that you brought with you from Hawaii to Virginia? Whether it was an item, whether it was a cultural thing, whether it was, I don't know, just a saying. What was something that you brought and you thought you brought to Mason during your undergrad experience?
Well, it was really funny because on our first hall meeting on our floor, we were told to bring one thing to the meeting, and that we were going to share, go around the room and share. And so I brought to the meeting a photo frame that had multiple photos, and I had some friends and family from Hawaii, and there were some blank spaces. And I said, this is part of who I am right now coming here, but I have some room and spaces here for my new friends, my Mason family. So that's what I brought to my freshman year housing meeting.
I love it. I feel like you brought that Hawaiian vibe of community, then. Man. I don't know. I feel like you just throwing it up there like that. I don't know. What is the saying? What is the saying? Is aloha, but what's a good saying for good vibes, like in Hawaii?
Yeah, you can do a lot of different things. It's hard for me to say it off the cuff because I've trained myself to kind of be more American Virginia. So I had to, get rid of my accent and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, one thing we were always like, we say Raja a lot. So like Roger that, or copy
Yeah,
that, but it's like Rajah, yeah, I know what you're saying, Raja.
I love it. I
So
love that.
you
I love that.
kind
I
of
love it.
a positive boost for other people.
That's good energy. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. All right. So, what's your question for me?
Um, Tell me about I believe that you were in a fraternity, and and how does your fraternity life carry over into your post-college graduate life?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I am a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, which is the first collegiate Black fraternity. And in our experiences, you can either join an undergrad or join as an alum. And so I joined the fraternity as an alum.
Okay.
And an alum of our fraternity means it's not attached to a college, but a regional area. So I'm a member of Theta Rho Lambda, which is the chapter that's affiliated with the city of Alexandria and Arlington. And so and I did it in 2017, and I graduated way long ago from undergrad. But I think one of the things I brought to it, or I think was helpful, is that one, it didn't change me, it just enhanced me, right? What I mean by that was, like, I was already involved in the community, I was already doing things to mentor and do that stuff, but it just allowed me more bandwidth and capacity because I have brothers that I can lean on and learn from. It just made me a better version, not a new version, if that makes sense. And being a member of the fraternity is also expanded when I worked at Mason, because now I can have a more of a pipeline to the undergraduate brothers. That is the Iota Alpha chapter, which is the chapter at Mason, which I've been their faculty advisor for at least, oh my goodness, like 3 years now, maybe longer.
Awesome.
I can't
That's
remember.
great.
So I would say the biggest thing that fraternity has really allowed me to do is have more connections to mentor, and be more intentional about supporting young Black students. Now I'm like, I got I'm the old head on campus that get to support the young brothers that are still there. They know that I could be a resource to ask questions and advice. I've actually learned from a lot of older brothers like David Atkins. He's at Mason, and because of my fraternity connection, I've been able to have him and ask him for guidance. So it's just been, I think it's really just helped me plug into a separate subset or community, at Mason and at large, that I think, has been really helpful and nice.
That's a great story.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, you could join later, and I wear my letters and all that, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm 38 years old. I'm not in college. But it's still a prideful thing. My father is a member of another fraternity called Omega Psi Phi, and he did as well. He joined alum because he was in the military, and so it's a journey for a lot of us in the what we call the MPAC or Divine Nine, is that you still have an opportunity to join and have that impact of a fraternity or sorority. But if something happened in college, or just it wasn't there at your college, that you still can get involved later. And I really like that aspect of Black Greek life. That's different than other sororities and fraternities, where I don't think mostly you can't join them after college for other ones, but for historically Black ones you can. So I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So back to our regularly scheduled program, shout outs and plugs. So the floor is yours. Shout outs mean show love to anyone you want to show love to. And then plugs, these are things whether they want to, if you are comfortable with people connecting with you, ways they can connect with you afterwards, or things that you just links or resources that you want them to be aware of. So shout outs and plugs. My mouth is zipped and the floor is yours.
For Mason, I guess if you want to get involved, I'd look at the alumni.gmu.edu and look at the calendar of events, or subscribe to their emails if you like, and show up to some events. I'm a big sports fan. I have season tickets to basketball, volleyball. I go to a lot of baseball and softball and any kind of sporting events. I think sports really bring us together, especially, coming from different backgrounds or different colleges. The Mason is, their website is gomason.com. And, some of them, I don't think they even charge for admission. So you can just walk up and go see a baseball game during the week. So check that out. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm not sure why you'd want to do that, but I am on LinkedIn, so you can find me there.
Awesome. And don't sell yourself short. I did, and now you're on my podcast. So good. Positive Filter listeners, thank you. This has been a great episode. Please follow up with all the resources Jen shared today. If you have any questions about getting involved, post-grad or you're a recent alum, please feel free to reach out to either me or Jen or anyone else in the Mason Alumni Association, because your journey as a Mason student doesn't end when you cross that stage. It probably just begins.
Right.
And as I said earlier, every episode is dedicated in honor to my late father-in-law, Jeff Kirsch. So if you are interested, I have put the link to the Jeff Kirsch Anti-Hunger Fund in the podcast show notes for his work in advocacy. And so please consider contributing to that. And if you like this episode, please share it with a family member or friend, subscribe, like, leave a review. All that helps elevate the podcast. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening.
All right. Go Mason.
Thank you for listening to Positive Filter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.